A mob of armed protesters was protesting Islam at a mosque in Phoenix recently. And you're going to want to stick around till the end because there's a funny little surprise in this story. Now, a few years ago, there used to be protests like this, but they would be about the creation of a new mosque, for instance, near Ground Zero, or in a neighborhood that already had too many mosques. They would protest that. No, this is just a mosque that's been there. They're just protesting the religion. They're literally saying, Islam, you need to go. You need to get out of here. It's amazing in America in 2015 that we have this. Can you imagine if there was 80 to 120, as you're going to see in there where there were in this case, people just outside of a church, not against a policy that the church has been pushing for or against a particular pastor, but just against Christianity, saying this is not compatible with our values in America and y'all need to go. You need to shoo. Can you imagine that happening? It doesn't actually happen. But in this case, they are protesting Islam. Now, as I said, it was between 80 and 120. These sorts of crowds, it's impossible to get exact numbers because they're going to say it was a huge crowd. The opposition is going to say that it wasn't. But regardless of how many people there were, we know that there were a lot of other things, like guns. American flags were also prominent amongst the anti-Islam crowd of between 80 to 100 and 120 people. About a third bearing arms ranging from revolvers to assault rifles. Several people on the other side of the street were also toting weapons, and understand that open carry is legal in Arizona. So this wasn't just, we don't like your religion, it's, we are armed and we're going to try to surround your mosque. As if there's no intimidation there, no attempt to threaten, no attempt to scare people out of the neighborhood. No, they're just exercising their free speech in a way that they would never do it with any other religion. Just coincidentally happens to be Islam in this case. Now, we have some details about some of the people who were involved in this protest. So first of all, we have Greg Burleson, who said he was a militia member who usually spent his weekend at the border tracking cartel members. He said the mosque was a breeding ground for terrorists. Now, I love the idea that he's on the border tracking cartel members. What the fuck does that actually mean? He doesn't have any, I don't mean that he doesn't have intelligence, although he probably doesn't have much. I mean, he doesn't have, like, intelligence into the cartels. He's literally looking through binoculars, tracking them. I'm sure that's a productive hobby of his. He says, I want them the fuck out of my neighborhood. They can practice Islam in their own country. I don't want it shoved down my throat in my own country. Well, that's the only place that it would be shoved down your throat because I don't take you to be much of a world traveler. But so something can be shoved down your throat in other people's countries? Is that what I'm supposed to take from this? So they can practice Islam in their own country. See, but that's the thing. They can also practice Islam here. Look, I don't want people practicing any religion. I think that they would be better off if they were to cultivate a secular state of mind and go to a library, for instance. But as long as people are going to be practicing a religion, it doesn't matter what religion it is. If it's Islam, Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, whatever religion you want, they get to practice it. You keep saying, it's a free country, how dare you infringe on my religion, and then you grab your guns and you protest outside of a mosque. So that makes sense to you. And by the way, you know that somebody doesn't have a good reason for what they believe aside from some sort of knee-jerk emotional gut reaction to it when they throw in the phrase, shove down my throat. How come every conservative argument against something has to involve the idea of something being shoved down their throat? Okay, I understand when they're talking about, like, gay marriage shouldn't be shoved down our throats. We understand what they're really thinking. Here, I just don't get it. Now, we also have John Ritzheimer. He's the organizer of the rally. He says, we're just exercising our First Amendment rights. We're all about peace and love. A pistol on his hip. He's a big hippie with the pistol on his hip. He says, we're educating people. Take away their 501c tax-exempt status, and then he throws in, let Donald Trump build something beautiful. Did anybody else see that coming? That's a surprise, by the way. Did you see that coming? That these people who decide that they just need to spontaneously organize with guns in a mob around a mosque, they also happen, what do you know, to like Donald Trump. And so over the past couple of months when we've been talking about the xenophobia that he is lighting a fire under, that he's telling people all of the racist, anti-Muslim, anti-black, anti-poor beliefs that you have, that's what being a great American is about. And we've been saying it's dangerous, and we've been saying that it certainly smells a little bit like American fascism. We've been saying that, and then they go and they beat up Hispanics in New York, or perhaps they bring their rifles outside of a mosque. You see the connection there? The violence that he's suggesting might be necessary, the violence that they're threatening against these innocent people. That's not scary to you for some reason. No, I have a feeling that if you're watching this, you probably are scared about it as well. And you should be. Because this is no different than them doing the same thing outside of a church. Okay, I would love if over time there weren't any Christians anymore, and they were instead just interested in progress, in science, in learning, in the real world, and the wonder and majesty of reality aside from just fantasies. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to get a sawed-off shotgun and go and sit down in the pews. That's not what you actually do. That's not how America works. This is fundamentally un-American. And I'm not throwing that term around the way they do on Fox. Our Constitution specifically says that you're allowed to practice your religion. It's not supposed to be infringed. It's not supposed to be taken away from you. And that's what they're trying to do. They've got no interest in the Constitution. Supposedly they have an interest in the Bible, although their devotion to guns and the threats of violence imply to me that they don't know anything about this guy Jesus that they would say is one of their superheroes. So anyway, they talked to some people in the mosque. Those people are incredibly understanding. They're talking about how, yeah, they have their free speech rights, but I think this is kind of dangerous. Or, well, I believe in the Second Amendment as well, but this is kind of threatening. I don't know who these people are that are inside the mosque. They sound damn near liberal, the way that they're, guaranteeing the rights of the people who want to drive them away from this country with the butt of a gun to their back. And so they're obviously worried because some people went over the barricades that the police set up, tried to get close to the mosque, and the police had to stop it. This is not what America is supposed to look like. There's a lot of people on the right who are throwing around these ideas about fascism and about how, gun control is how the Nazis took over. But no, these sorts of protests, man, that smacks of early 30s Germany. You can't just choose groups in society and then say, we gotta threaten them, we gotta scare them, we gotta get them out of this country. I don't want the right to leave the country. Okay, I just want them to perhaps educate themselves about the people who are also American citizens who are exercising their rights as guaranteed by the Constitution. So, look, it's frustrating, and it's not the last thing. They're apparently going to be spreading this to a number of other cities throughout this week, throughout America, and that's scary shit because when you take people who are really scared about Sharia and you give them guns and then you push them towards the Muslims and say these are the people that are going to kill everything that you love about this country, is it any wonder if there's going to be violence? Is anybody going to be honestly surprised if they shoot up a mosque or burn down a mosque? I won't be. So we're going to be keeping an eye on that. Hopefully it won't progress any farther than it already has.